So why should women advocate for changing the family court laws? Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, as I've said many times before, I'm a huge fan of Anti Daniels. Like a lot of things that he does. He really truly is advocating for the black community, in spite of other people believing not, because he's not advocating for the black community because he doesn't push pro-black foolishness. But he has known for having this panel show that's hosted by him and Island Girl Q. And one of the recurring guests on there is Jazz. Now, she's very unsufferable. She's one of those biggity back, pull backs, hands in the air, always victims about everything in the past, stuff that she never seen or experienced. She just it gets very tiring. I mean, for her, she's basically the very embodiment of black fatigue. But anyway, she was on a panel and the discussion got on the topic of family court laws.
I, like you, for example, I don't have problems in my life, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to advocate for updating family court laws, because I think that when you're in a position of power, you should use your platform for things that actually is transformational and not wait until you're under duress to have a conversation about it, because at that point, nobody cares.
Okay, who created these laws that you want women to advocate to change?
What you mean? It was necessary. I think that the laws were
good. That's not what I asked you.
Created.
I asked you, who created the laws that you want women to now advocate to
Legislators.
change?
They did it for the protection
and legislators. Who were these legislators?
I don't know them by name, if that's what
you don't know them by name. Were they majority women? Were there majority women?
No, they were men.
They were men. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if they were men, right? Mm-hmm. Why is it up for us as women to advocate for these changes? If men are upset about the laws that they created, shouldn't they be the ones advocating to change it?
Okay, so who created the laws? I agree, it was mostly men. It was pretty much men who created the laws back then. So I agree that, yes, but again, it wasn't the men. You can't say the men of today, because the men of today didn't create these laws. But I agree that it was men who did it. Now, the reason why they created the laws the way it is because those laws were created in a time when women really didn't work. They were the homemakers. I mean, the men that went off to work and the women stayed home and basically they cooked and cleaned and took care of the home while the man was out working. So if a woman and a man were to separate after, say, 20 years of marriage and they decide to get a divorce and separate, well, this woman has no career. She hasn't been working. So what's she going to do? She's been taking care of and cooking and cleaning for a man for all those years. So you can't expect a woman to just walk away empty-handed out of this. So I agree that the laws should have been existing the way it is back then, because it was all about the protection of the women, as Anton said. And if you watch the whole clip, but laws have changed though. So now we live in a day and age of equality. So the reason why women should advocate for the change in these laws is because we live in a day and age of equality now. So we basically changed society to get more equality for women, but we haven't changed updated the family court laws. So why would, if females believe in equality, then they should believe in equality across the board. That's why women should advocate for it. If you're honest and fair, just like men were honest and fair to change the laws or have the laws so that women will be protected. And I agree, they should have put the laws should have been that way. And if had I been alive today or back in the day, and I had to choose between, had to decide what these laws were going to be, I would do the exact same thing. Again, because it's fair. What's fair is fair. Well, what's fair is fair today is that they want equality, so we should have equality across the board. And you know that women these feminists, they only advocate the changing the laws in which they perceive that women are not that didn't benefit. But when the areas where women had benefit, they don't want to touch those. And I agree that it was men in the government that did it, yeah. And it's men in the government today who is enforcing these same outdated laws. Well, the reason why they're doing it is because, well, these judges fund their retirement. Anytime a man is forced to pay something, child support or alimony, the federal government gets its cut. And that money is used to fund the retirement. But it's not just male judges. There are plenty of female judges who also advocate for the same thing, who are doing the same thing. Regardless, it's wrong. Regardless, it depends upon, it doesn't matter what's between their legs. It's wrong today. It's no different than how politicians have been ripping us off with with Dodgers uncovering. How all the fraud and waste. You got AOC who's been in DC for maybe 6 years at most, 4 to 5 years. Now she's a multimillionaire. How did she become a multimillionaire on a congressman's salary? And she was a former bartender. That's fraud and waste all over it. And those people, they need to be investigated. They all need to be in jail. Regardless, Jazz, she's a typical pro-black. She's just nothing but a parrot. All she does is repeat all of the BS that she was brainwashed with. And I've seen this woman before, and she, like I said, she's a typical pro-black. And I say this all the time, the very embodiment of they arm themselves with the example of the victimhood, but they can never defend it. I heard her on one particular show, she talked about COINTELPRO. I guarantee you that woman don't know the first thing about no damn COINTELPRO. All she knows about COINTELPRO is supposedly hurt the black community. And she never said in that video exactly how COINTELPRO hurt the black community. She just cried about COINTELPRO. These people are fools. Anyway, though, that's my 2 cents on it. The reason why women should advocate for changes in the court laws is because they advocated for changes in society. It needs to be balanced. If you are fair, a woman, and you are equal and you are fair, then you have to agree with that. And as always, y'all, until next time.